Yeah. It's OK.
Looking fabbo.
Oh, thank you.
Fabbo, fabbo.
Thank you.
Last time we talked on this programme, you said you got the movie bug and you're off to Hollywood to find out. So what happened?
I went out there for pilot season and it was like a meat market out there.
Was it?
Yep. Queues and queues of girls just desperate to get that part and I couldn't believe it, but I actually got a part out there in a TV show, in a pilot, in a comedy sitcom, and we're waiting to see if it's going to be picked up or not.
What was it like living in La La Land for a while?
In La La Land?
Yeah,
yeah, it is a bit mad out there.
Yeah.
It is mad, and when I was out there also there was a time of the Oscars. I watched you and your daughter, yeah.
On the red carpet?
I did,
Asking people who they were?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was so funny, though, because you do get so many people, they're taking it all very, very seriously, and, you know, and then Joan's there just making everybody laugh and asking all the questions that deep down we want to ask. So, no, it was great, and it was lonely. There were times it was really lonely. It was... a lot of it is, you know, it is what it is. Hollywood, you know, is quite fake, it is funny, but there's also a great positivity out there. Whether that's true or not doesn't really matter. It's quite contagious. And if you're going to have your dream come true, that is a place to go because, you know, they do come true out there.
But let's now talk about your latest project, which is this intriguingly entitled play for television called The English Harem.
Yes.
Where you start opposite Art Malik.
Yeah, fabulous man.
Yeah, it's a lovely story. It's about, he plays a Persian with two wives.
Yes.
And you are a young, aspiring daydreamer, basically, working in a supermarket. You get sacked for being dizzy.
Yes.
And you set your stall out to work for him. And,
yes.
And eventually you get to marry him.
I do. I'm wife number 3.
You're wife number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lovely sequence where you take him home to your parents. They live in the buildings.
They live in the council estate,
Estate, a bit like you did when you were a kid,
most definitely.
Right, and they're fairly, as they are, rigid in their ways. And you present them with this exotic man.
Yes.
I know I'm a lot older than your daughter.
But you started going to the gym, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
And there's one other thing, and it sounds worse than it is. Sam's already married, aren't you? Actually, he has 2 other wives that he lives with, and I'll be the 3rd. We haven't made a date yet, but we just wanted to include you in our plans.
It's definitely.
Look! Ta-da!
You are adorable, isn't it, actually? It's an intriguing play, too, because it raises several questions. It addresses the issue of racism, about the way we react to people who are not like us, and it's a sad story, too, as well as being very funny.
Very.
The thing, of course, that the tabloid press picked up on was sex scenes, steamy sex scenes.
That's the tabloids for you, though. They love it. Sex sells.
Well, I couldn't wait to watch it. I have to say, because, you know, you've always been one of my favourites.
Oh, thank you.
But it's nice and it's elegant and tame, actually, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you know, it's quite sensual, and I'd never done a love scene before.
Had you not?
No, I've done lots of, you know, snogging scenes, but I'd never done a love scene before, so I was really nervous, and Art Malik was fantastic, and it was quite funny because I was nervous, and you hear about all these people having this great chemistry on set, and how, you know, there was this, you know, fabulous thing, and they got together in real life, and meanwhile, we just had people going, more thrusting, Art, that's it, that's mine. Man scratching his leg and drinking a cup of coffee, and, you know, and you're there sort of going, oh, God, I'm trying to make this look sensual. But I do think as well that sometimes less is more. You know, sometimes less is more. When it comes to really sort of doing something that's erotic, you want to tantalise and you want to tease, and sometimes that means not showing everything and leaving a little bit to the imagination. Not all the time. Sometimes you do need to show everything, but I think there are times that you don't have to.
And also, too, in a dream sequence, you're in bed, the 3 girls together.
Oh, yes. Yes, some caressing and kissing.
That's right.
And lots of people sort of saying, how do you feel about it? Are you nervous? And I said, well, not really, because, you know, all the 3 girls were all straight girls, and none of us were gay, none of us felt like anybody had a hidden agenda. And it was really comfortable because we trusted each other and we could do what we wanted to do. And it was quite funny because one of the girls went, Martine, you smell great. And one of the camera crew went,
It's favourite moment. Every man's fantasy. Who's a better kisser, he or Hugh Grant?
Oh, very different. Art Malik's very tender and very slow and kind of really sort of sensual, whereas Hugh Grant's very sort of more passionate and just sort of grabs hold of your face and never lets go, which I don't mind.
Would you rate about this?
I'm listening. It's been so long. I had a flasher open his raincoat. I thought he was giving me directions. I mean, I don't even know what I'm just listening, going,
Let's talk a bit more. I said there about the racism there, which and the kind of council state depicted in the film is the one that you grew up in.
Yeah.
First of all, when you were growing up, was there much racism in you lived in Hackney?
Hackney, yeah, Hackney Dawson. Yeah. To be honest with you, no. I mean, where we were, there wasn't. Not when I was growing up anyway, there wasn't so much what you call like an ethnic minority. There was about sort of equal amounts of everybody. And a lot of families are kind of interracial families. They're, you know, half of my family are mixed race. And it was kind of just, everybody just was so busy surviving and just trying to get through life and pay the bills. And there's lots of, you know, domestic violence and lots of, you know, bad things going on around there. And that was the last thing on anyone's mind. If anything, everyone just used to pull together, which sort of sounds ideal, but we had other problems. That wasn't one of our problems. Not that I came across anyway.
No. Speaking of that domestic violence, of course, you've talked to me before on this show about what your mother went through with your father.
Yeah.
And she's since, indeed, last time you were on the show, she's written a best-selling book about the abuse that she received.
As a child.
As a child. But did that, first of all, reading that book, what were your feelings seeing your mother so literally exposed as she would be telling that story?
Yeah, I mean, she spoke to me before she even thought about sending the book to the publishers, and she sent it under a different name, under her married name, Jenny Tomlin. Actually, she did it under J. Tomlin. I think she was inspired by J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter book. She thought, you know, I'll do that, it's got a ring to it. But I think that she was worried about me and worried about compromising me or me being embarrassed. And I just said, Mum, you know, you've got your own story to tell and your own life, and you're entitled to do that. And if you feel like this is something you want to do and you can help, you know, children are innocent and you can't... it's still something that's not talked about.
Yes.
It's still something that makes people uncomfortable. But the more people talk about it and the more people address it, the more children will be helped.
Yes.
It is still going on.
And what's extraordinary about your mother's story, and indeed your story too, is that she married an abusive man.
Yeah.
And you lived on the run, literally, because your father was prevented from coming to see you, but did, nonetheless, sought you out. So you literally lived like nomads.
Yeah, we did. We were gypsies. We moved everywhere. We had panic buttons. And my mum tried so hard to not go for that destructive relationship. And when she first met him, he wasn't like that. But certain things happened, he changed, and he did become abusive. And I think that her main priority was just protecting me. And I think she felt sad because he was obsessed with her, but he didn't, you know, love me, he wasn't interested in me. And as a result, I was sometimes used to hurt her because he knew I was the closest thing to her. And I just think that...
in what way do you mean that? How?
Well, you know, he kind of, you know, my first memory of my dad is him hanging me over a balcony by my ankles, and that's the first memory. I was about 2. And you know, he's got, obviously, you know, he had a lot of problems, and you know, at the end of the day, though, my mum says a very true thing. She says, you know, you can walk around and use it as an excuse to become a victim. You don't have to be a victim. It's, you know, it's an attitude that you give out, and people can treat you like that. You have to choose to, you know, be the victor, not the victim.
Yes.
And that's what, you know, I decided to do. And she was the one who said, you know, go for your dreams, do what you want to do. Don't use it as an excuse to do nothing.
So in a sense, what you decided to do was to escape from that, wasn't it? I mean, that's what showbiz was about, I suppose, standing on a stage being somebody else.
Well, yeah, definitely. and also just to, you know, it looks so safe when things are glossy and... you know, the colours are so vivid and everybody looks so perfect. I know that, you know, the business is not perfect, but to be able to make something that looks perfect every day, I thought, well, that's for me. That's what I'd like to do. That's my escapism.
Has it had any kind of effect on you, though, as a person? I mean, any long-term effect? I mean, for instance, I mean, you're being in that kind of relationship with a father who didn't love you. Has it affected your attitude toward men, for instance? I mean, do you feel this?
I think it could have done, but I think because my mum was such a strong woman, and because she is very open, and she's, you know, she's a very vivacious woman. She's been quite wild. There's not anything I can't talk to her about, and we deliberately, you know, we did speak about the sort of men that I would go for, and I've had failed relationships, but it's not been because of anything to do with my dad so much. I mean, obviously there's that gap there, and you do have that sadness there, but you do also think, well, that's not a man's job, you know, a lover in my life, that's not his job to fulfill that sadness, but at the same time he does need to take it on board.
Yes.
And I mean, there was one relationship where I thought, uh-oh, you're starting to be kind of like my dad, I've got to walk away. And it broke my heart, but I walked away. And so, you know, knowledge is power, as they say, and I walked away.
In that sense, it's a useful experience, but I mean, you were able to actually see what's coming, perhaps, as you did in that sense.
Yeah, you sense certain things, and you just sort of think, you know, you see the signs.
Yes. Well, next up, so what's happening next?
So, next, I'm going to be doing a new album. I'm going to be doing some fabulous campus Christmas songs.
Campus Christmas?
Campus Christmas. I thought that would be right for tonight. And there was a link there somewhere. Weak link, but there you go. No, I'm going to do a new album, really sort of uplifting disco classics, kind of like a modern Donna Summer thing, because I did a song on the radio, did a cover of her song, and it did so phenomenally well that I thought I'm going to do that again. Also, the best of the ballads. I've got some TV stuff that I want to do, and they're also talking about turning my mum's book into a film.
Are they?
Yes.
And what do you mean that?
I would want to play my grandmother.
Your
my mum's
grandma?
mum, yeah.
Because you said it's about your mum as a child.
Yes.
So, yes.
And she was a very weak woman.
Your grandma?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And I think as well, it's easy to walk away now from certain situations, but back then it wasn't easy to walk away.
It wasn't.
No, and a lot of people said to me, but would you be able to distance yourself and do the part? And I just think because I would so want the story to be told, you know, as truthfully as possible, I'd want to do the part justice, and I'll audition with everybody else, and if they think I'm the best person, hopefully I'll do the job for her.
Oh, great, good on you. Martine McCutheon, thank you very much indeed.
Thank
Martine
you.
McCutheon.
2 words, that's all I'd like. 2 words, well and done.
I'm sure he doesn't
He's only
mean
here
it.
because there's a free buffet, and mean-spirited, sanctimonious, narrow-minded
Oh, my
old
God.
sod. What now?
He's talking to Salman Rushdie. Look, he's telling them how it's done.
Have you read yours, Salman? No, that is a book.
Welcome, please, Colin Firth. Shall we quit now while we're ahead of the game? Shall we take that and go?
I think that's enough, actually, yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
The film is wonderful. I mean, I really did enjoy it. It's a very moving film. I mean, any son and relates to his father and will associate with it, as will anybody who's ever loved anybody, basically. It's about deep love between two people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that the secret of the effect of good writing or any good storytelling is it makes it feel that it's about you. I mean, even if it were set in outer space or, in 18th century sort of France or 12th century Rome, you feel it's telling your story. This is actually not one of those things. This is everybody's story. I mean, everybody's got a father or a father figure, and everybody is going to lose that person or already has lost that person. And everybody will have a conflict in that relationship, and I think that's what it addresses very honestly.
When you read the book, because it was a book, first of all, it's actually a true story. It's an account by Blake Morrison, the relationship he had with his father. Were you immediately taken by it? Did you immediately think in filmic terms? Do you think?
No, I certainly did. I was taken by it, but I couldn't possibly think of it in filmic terms. It's a very personal, very interior series of impressions written by a man who'd very recently lost his father. And, that doesn't cry out to be a film necessarily. He wasn't intending that. He didn't have that shape. It didn't have it didn't have that kind of narrative. So it was a book that I'd read quite close to the time it was published, and I evangelized it everywhere. I was saying to people, it sounds depressing. This is about a very complex love-hate relationship with a dad ending up with a death. But you'll feel better for reading it. It's not an easy sell, but the idea of it being a film it sort of amazed me, actually, when they sent me a script. It took about 8 years to develop.
Well, it's worked beautifully. I mean, it really does work as a narrative, and it really works. And you sympathise, and yet are at the same time angry at times with both characters, both the principal characters. The father is very charismatic. He's a doctor.
Well, yes, he is, and I think that his charisma is partly that what is the thorn in the side of his son, because while his father's being delightful and he's charming the room, the very self-conscious and hypersensitive 17-year-old's toes are curling, so you don't understand. He's not a charming, lovely man. He's a complete bastard, and he's humiliating me. And what you just saw there in that clip is the sad fact that when you reach your mid-40s, that figure has a capacity to transport you back to being 17 again.
Yes.
You know, you think you've achieved something. There he is, getting an award. He's moved on in life. He's proved himself. He's a father himself. And then everything's in place until you walk through the door of your family home, and then some tone of voice transports you right back to being 17 again. Yeah.
You play opposite the wonderful Jim Broadbent, who plays your father. And we're going to see a scene now, because what it's about as well, it's about communication. It's about lack of communication, basically, as well. It's about, in this scene we see it, it's about your dad on his deathbed, the character who plays your dad on the deathbed, and you there trying to come to terms with it, and him. So let's have a look at this.
The shares all go in your mother's name. The solicitor knows all about it. Make sure your mother opens the envelopes and signs all the forms. And keep an eye on her, won't you? Don't disappear and leave it all up to Gillian.
Of course I won't. Tired?
Too true.
Again, there's something moving and something very, very British, too, about that reserve, about that barrier, that feeling that even at that moment in time, when you might not have the chance to do it at all, ever, you pull back from the situation.
I think one of the reasons why the film resonates with so many people is that you don't say the right things at the right time. I think every loss is accompanied by a series of regrets, you know. The film is very frank about that, the fact that you don't have the big speech you always intended to make. You don't resolve all those things. The last words don't come at the right time. And in fact, in the end, death is the most natural thing you can possibly imagine. It will happen, and it's very practical. He's sorting out bills because he has to. He's off somewhere.
Yes.
And that's how it works.
Back,
and
yes.
you know, I think in some ways he's more in tune with the practicality of that than the son, who's got so many unresolved things. It reminds me a bit of something in my own life. I still have my parents, and they're both well, but I very recently, relatively recently, 7 years ago, saw my father lose his son. So I saw my father as a son, in the role of a son, losing his father. And, you know, he was quite a reserved Yorkshireman as well. And
did it actually affect your own relationship at all with your dad? I mean, it's a silly question. Did it make you reconsider maybe your relationship?
These things don't necessarily happen in one blinding light, but it did. I think it's percolated through my life in the year since I made the film, and it's made me reflect on myself as a father as well.
You had a strange sort of upbringing, didn't you? You were travelling around the world quite a bit. Your mum and dad were teachers. You spent some time in Africa. Do you have any recollection of that place? It seems to have impinge on people. It seems to leave them with images.
I have images. It's very hard to know what qualifies as a real recollection because, you know, it has to survive the ravages of reinvention and wishful thinking and editing as time goes on. One of the most vivid memories I have, which I don't know if it would withstand interrogation, is the boy next door, who's an African boy. We were both about 2 years old, and I remember having very involved conversations with him. And, you know, I think I'd learned the words for tractor and poo by that age, you know, in my own language, and he didn't speak a word of English or probably his own language. And my memory has it that we were discussing the effects of Nigerian independence on the Yoruba people. And, you know, my mother says you were sort of babbling at each other. So I remember smells. I remember images of light and my father driving to work and the pets we had, and it does come back.
What comes across when one reads about that background is the sense of you being the outsider, of standing outside the the society that you're in, because you are that. I mean, you're detached from it. You're moved around all the time. Is that? Would you agree with that description to start with?
Yes.
And would you say that's a good position to be as an actor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never... I probably found it difficult as a schoolboy once or twice, but I've never regretted feeling slightly outside things. I think that, you know, I know that I'm very much of this country, and I think paradoxically I'm considered to be a consummate representative of a certain type of Englishman, which I don't feel myself to be. And so I think you see everything with two pairs of eyes, really, if you've moved about a lot. You see things from an indigenous point of view, and you see things from a visitor's point of view.
And what about acting? There's none of that in your family. I mean, where did that come from?
I don't know. There was a question that was, I think, besieging my parents as I left school and went about this business. Where could it possibly have come from? I think we're very confused people, actors. I think you have to. That's the first prerequisite. I think you have to be very confused. And
About what? About everything?
Everything, yeah. I think you have to have a bit of an identity crisis going on, and that has to last for quite a long time. You have to cultivate that, you know. And then you also have to have an incredible desire for attention. So you have to be a confused person who wants attention. And then you have to have some desire to try on different identities in some way. I mean, that's actually quite a strange cocktail.
It is.
And if you're not going to be an actor, you probably need help. You know.
So it's cheaper than the psychiatry, is it?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
and it paid me, and so it was an alternative to hospitalisation.
And they were, I mean, going the way, getting lots of work and doing all sorts of stuff, and then along came Pride and Prejudice, and that just changed everything, didn't it?
Yes, I suppose it did. I didn't see it immediately. I mean, I was away at the time. I'd just met the woman who's now my wife, and I was in Italy, and we were all blissfully unaware of what was going on for a while. And I kept getting sort of bulletins from England while it was running, giving me some idea of what was happening. And after one well, the first person to tell me was my mother. She said, you know, telling me that, you know, I was getting lots of attention back home, and I thought, bless you, Mother. Yes, of course, you know. And then I sort of got... I was... By way of proof, somebody sent me some articles and, you know, recordings of radio programmes about it. And I remember going into my Italian prospective future family of in-laws and saying, I have an announcement to make. I'm a heartthrob. And when the laughter died down, there was a period of kind of bewilderment and kind of a real genuine searching about how this could be possible. And I found they were sort of gazing at me. The English. What is it with the English? And I remember them going back to... We finally got some... You know, because I think we'd seen tapes by this point. We'd seen the first 3 episodes. And they looked at it and they said, well, this is fascinating. So the English find this sexy. You like repression, you know. And they said, so do you find John Major sexy? Prince Philip, is he? And, you know, because I was talking to people who, you know, it was all... I remember there was Joaquin Cortez had come to town, you know, flamenco. That was what they called sexy.
Yes.
And so seeing this kind of, you know, lamppost walking around was very, very confusing.
So you were surprised by it all?
Yes, but I mean, it happened so... It was a slow burn, really. I mean, because I didn't process it immediately, it's unfolded as a series of surprises which have lasted until today.
It's supposed to be done the nude, wasn't it, originally?
Oh, that scene, yeah.
That scene, the famous scene.
Yeah,
that scene.
It was supposed to be done in the nude, and I think it was a blessing for me and really for everybody else that we found it all turning.
Would you have done it in the nude?
Oh, probably. There wouldn't be this applause if you'd seen it.
No, I'm going to say, which begs the question, would you have been a bigger or lesser heartthrob had they done the nude? Than, no, but if you'd been bigger heartthrob...
Oh, no, lesser. No. Just keep it under wraps, I think. It's always...
But I know that this comes up in... I suppose you regard it as a kind of just something you have to talk about and think about. But it did affect your career, didn't it? I mean, it affected in the sense that it lifted you to a different degree of of recognition.
It's yes, I mean, it certainly must have done. I mean, it's hard to evaluate how that happened or to measure, because you can't go through your life measuring the effects of one incident, 12 years ago. And so, or considering what might have happened had that not happened.
Yes.
So I really don't know. I mean, I thought I was doing really well until that happened. And then when it happened, I was, it was as if I'd been nowhere up to that point. So I don't know. And now it's something, it's like a secondary, it's a name. It's like one of those school nicknames you can't shake off.
I read that you thought of changing your name.
Oh, just recently? Well, I did. I thought perhaps if I'm going to be called Mr. Darcy all the time, I might as well just change my name to Mr. Darcy. And then people can finally say, no, you're not Mr. Darcy. Which will be a first in the life.
Now, this film of yours comes out next week. And as I said, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very, very powerful film, and I hope it will do very well. But you've got so many other things lined up, haven't you? You've done the St. Trinian's movie.
Yes.
And you're just back from Greece, where you're doing Mamma Mia.
Yes.
Yes. You're singing Mamma Mia?
Yes. Singing's a big word. There's a multitude of sins. No, I'm entrusted with a song which, mercifully, is not The Family Silver. It's not a great... It's an album track which was never a single. It was called Our Last Summer. And so I'm not on sacred ground in the way that, someone had given me Dancing Queen, which part of me would love to. But it's been a very odd year from that point of view, because the farcical territory of St. Trinian's, where I'm being humped by a small dog called Mr. Darcy. Culminating in a wild love scene with a transvestite Rupert Everett. And,
your favourite man?
Indeed. And then straight into spandex and lycra.
And a great cast, Glenn Close and Pierce...
It's Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan, Stellan Skarsgård.
Lovely. Well, all the best with when you last see your father. I said I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm sure the public will also. Colin Firth, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your new movie, which is called Confetti.
It is.
Which is basically... Well, you tell us what it is.
It's an improvised movie, but don't...
Is it totally improvised?
It's totally improvised, but don't let that scare you yet. It's about 3 couples who are going to get married, who have entered a competition to put on the most imaginative wedding, the winner of which wins a £500,000 house.
Yes.
So that's what we had a story. We have a very good director, Debbie Isaac, who came up with a story and is directing, but every word of it is improvised on camera.
I mean, every single word. So
Yep.
what should give you an idea, a structure,
Absolutely,
what you had to say, and then you
give you a shape of the scene and a shape of where your story was going. But for instance, we could be having a chat, and then unbeknown to us, you come in, and it's the question of just reacting. So it's very,
How
very...
do you know what to shoot then? Where to put the cameras on?
Good question.
Yeah.
I still don't know. I still don't know. It's coming out now, and we shot it in October, November 2004, so it's taken a long time to edit. It's just, hundreds of hours of stuff to edit.
Yeah. Now, the 3 couples, there's nudists, 2 nudists getting married. There are 2 tennis players.
Yes.
And then you and Jessica Stevenson.
That's right.
And you're the song and dance people.
Yeah, we're people... the theme for our... everyone's got a theme. As you say, there's naturist, tennis, and our one is kind of MGM musicals. We're people who are not fanatical about them. I mean, we're not mental, but that's the path we've chosen. That's
You're
kind
obsessed.
of the path... Yeah, it's the path she's sort of chosen, and I have done my duty and gone along with it.
It was interesting, of course. You mentioned there that it's all improvised, but of course there are set pieces at the end, particularly yours, with the great Busby Barclay spoofs and that sort of cameras in the ceiling and all that sort of stuff.
Definitely, yeah. So, absolutely, yeah. So I couldn't pretend we'd improvise that.
No.
That would be a cheat.
It would be, yeah. I'm glad you say that up, because even now people will be writing in
exactly,
and saying,
what a liar.
What a liar, yeah. But are you a song and dance man yourself, or is that your great ambition?
It's not my great ambition. It's not the world's great ambition to hear me sing, trust me.
No.
The world doesn't need that. It's got war. It doesn't need that as well. I love singing. I love dancing.
And you sing in the movie?
I do, yeah. I mean, what could be termed as singing, I can literally carry a tune.
I suppose you could call that improvising.
You could call it improvised singing.
Well, let's have a look, because there's a marvellous double act, two gay wedding planners that you employ, or employed by by the magazine to actually look after all the couples. And
Yeah.
this is a sequence where they come to your home and they talk to your mum-in-law, your wife, and your wife's sister, who's a dancer of sorts.
And a nightmare.
And a nightmare. This is what happens.
Oh, what's
We'll
having
just
people
see
detained
the
around
people in...
us?
Shut the fuck up! Seriously, shut the fuck up, all right?
Excuse me.
Excuse nothing. Excuse nothing. No, we had this out yesterday. I beg your pardon. Honest goodness me. Who the hell do you think you are? We're losing the wedding planners now.
Oh, blimey,
We're losing the
that's
wedding
all gone
planners.
pear-shaped.
Yeah, oh, no, it's not all gone pear-shaped. You put it pear-shaped.
Your fault.
I bet you were glad also, too, you weren't chosen to play the naturalist in the...
Yeah, I mean, that is... It's a genuinely, all joking aside, a really hard role. I mean, it's a hard... It's a genuinely flaccid role, you know.
Flaccid role.
It's a difficult thing to do. I mean, I've done it, as you mentioned in Love, actually, I've done it, and I wouldn't be the first to queue up to be naked in front of 50 people, 100. It's not easy. It makes you very, very self-aware. Just the fact that we all generally wear clothes, and all of a sudden you've got your knob out. That's what's different. that's different. You know. And not only that, you've also then got to try and subjugate any feelings of terror in order to sort of act naturally. It's not easy. I would say.
No.
No.
I quite agree.
Thank you. Yes.
But you
I don't have quite the same worry, but...
No, you don't. But you appeared in the new, didn't you, on London stage?
I have indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, what a fuss you all made.
I know. You made too much fuss.
I don't know. I think every cab driver in London was...
They saw that,
they did come, yes.
Yeah.
But of course, it sold tickets. There's no doubt. So it fulfilled one purpose, that's for sure. I've often wondered when you do that in Love Actually, you had that lovely sequence between the scenes between you.
Right.
You're the sex scene body double with the girl.
Yeah, with Joanna Page.
Joanna, that's right. But when you meet Joanna later at a cocktail party, what's it like? I mean.
Do you know, because we were both scared, and we spent a lot of the time being fairly terrified. We just looked after each other, got our heads down. Oh God. No. I just said to my mum, I'm not going to swear, and I'm not even being rude. I'm not even meant to be being rude. I'm not trying to be rude. It's them. But no, you just try and get on with the work and really look after each other, you know. And so we did, you know, because it's scary, you know, it's hard. And so when you kind of look around, there's 50 sparks, kind of, you know, because more people come when you're naked. It's not like, you know, you can try a closed set, but all of a sudden the drivers get interested. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. All of a sudden the caterers go, have you heard there's a... Yeah. And I was getting driven home by this guy on Love, actually, who said, there's a bit of nudity today, wasn't there? I said, yeah, there was some nudity. Who was doing that? I said, me. He went, oh, right. And he said, so what was the bird? And so it just becomes about, you know, it's very much, all of a sudden, people are much more interested than they would be in that great dialogue scene yesterday.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand, yes.
People come out of the woodwork to sort of have a look at... probably not at me.
Well, I was really upset because it deflected your performance in Love Actually from my performance in Love Actually.
It does, yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't... I mean, I was going to say it's my movie you were in.
To be fair, I was better than you.
You were better than
I was. Yeah. To be absolutely honest.
But I had a bigger Winnebago than you did.
You did. And in many ways, a more fulfilling role.
Exactly so. Now, let's talk a bit about The Office, about your way up to the present position you find yourself in, because that was an extraordinary business to be involved in. I mean, it's now set down in history as one of the television comedy series, isn't it?
It would seem so, yeah.
It's like 40 Towers. It's a landmark in comedy. You could have had no idea when you started doing that, when you went to audition for the part, that anything like this would happen.
No, I think you can have no idea of how it'll be perceived. You can have an idea of what you think of it, and fortunately, what I thought of it and what everyone else thought of it was that we liked it. So we were just happy to be doing something that we were dead proud of, and when I see bits cut together, I thought, I love it. I don't really care if other people love it. It's a bonus if they do, but of course, there was no way that we could have foreseen it would win as many awards or whatever has happened.
And you read for a different part, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I read for Gareth that Mackenzie Crook played. Yeah, and I was literally on my way out, and I think it was Asher Taller and Steve Merchant sort of had a little, obviously a brainwave, and said, how about reading for Tim? Because, you know, Mackenzie would have, you know, I wouldn't have got that part. Mackenzie was much better at that part. So it was very fortunate they stopped me when they did, you know.
Let's have a look at the scene between the two of you, actually, from The Office.
Have you got a price for matte-coated SRA1?
If I can't see you, I can't hear you, Gary.
Just tell me, will you?
No, I can't hear you. If you
I'm
want
right
to
here.
speak
Just
to me,
tell
if
me
you want
now.
to speak to me, give me a ring, okay?
It's on voicemail.
Leave a message.
I mean, that did amazing things for you. It's a bit like your body heat. I mean, that
Yes.
you took off
It
with
was,
that.
yeah. That was my body heat.
Your
Yeah.
body. Except you became
Yeah.
Mr. Nice, didn't you? Mr.
I suppose,
Everyman.
yeah, I guess so.
And is that something that you kind of fight against now?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's something you're mindful of because obviously as an actor you want to do that and then do that and, you know, do the other.
But
and,
were you, before you did The Office, did you play nasty parts?
Yeah, I mean, I used to go up for plenty of gay bare-knuckle fighters, you know. I mean, I did, you know, because when I left drama school, I was considered to be edgy. And as an actor, you don't really have to do that much to be considered edgy, because the people considering you edgy have never actually met any edgy people, do you know what I mean? So all you need to do, basically, is kind of drop a T here and there, and they think, oh, fucking, he's a cockney. Yeah. And, so I used to play a varied array of roles, and you know, in theatre and very small bits on telly, mainly in plays. You know, I was mainly a theatre actor, and you know, and then The Office came along, and obviously that, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what made people know who I was, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now America. You made films in America. You made a
couple,
film.
yeah.
You made a film recently over there.
Yeah.
With Jake Paltrow.
That's right. Yeah, Gwyneth's younger brother, who wrote and directed a lovely movie. Yeah.
And starring her as well. And
Yes.
the aforesaid Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
There
Yes,
was.
Danny
You're-
DeVito, yeah.
yes.
And walking around with Danny, we filmed a bit in New York, and walking around with him, it was like walking around with the mayor of New York.
Unbelievable.
He's so loved.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you know why.
And they
'cause
call
he's
him
loved,
Louis,
yeah.
don't they, mostly?
Really?
Well, yeah.
Okay, right.
He always said that he felt that from that role he did on Taxi, I think.
Taxi,
Yeah, that they always call him Louis. Hey, Louis.
They just love him. You know, and I loved him. He was genuinely a delightful man, you know, and a gorgeous person to act with.
But very short.
Too short. You've hit the nail right on the head there, Turner. Too short to trust. Never trust him.
But I mean, what about Hollywood? I mean, do you have aspirations for that? Is that where you want to be? Is that what you want to do?
It's never particularly been a goal. My goal is to be in things that I'm proud of, and that on my deathbed I can say I was glad I was in, you know, and be good in, and be part of. This, again, sounds pretentious, but just the process of telling stories. I think human beings need stories to listen to.
I agree,
to
but you
watch.
have to earn a living, don't you?
Of course, but you can so easily do that without... I mean, I think, personally, once you've got some money in the bank, there's no excuse for doing things that you know are bad. Do you know what I mean? There's just no excuse for doing things that you know are rotten. You know, because how do you... You know, because then you've got to sleep. You know,
Someone
then you've got
told
to kind
me years ago that I would be known as much for what I did not do as for what I did. And I quite agree, and I think that people... Young people and actors who must make that choice.
Absolutely. I think, you know, there's work at the post office. Do you know what I mean? There's work somewhere.
You're
You know,
not
you can
gonna
always get...
starve.
No, you're not going to starve, you know, and we're paid... Once you're paid some good money, we're paid pretty well. You know, you don't need to be paid $15 trillion a movie in order to just keep the boat on the lake. You know, it's like, I haven't got a boat. You know what I mean? It's fine, you know.
You don't want a boat?
I don't want a boat. He can keep his boat. Whoever he is.
Well, Martin, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you very
and
much.
all the best with your film Confetti. I
Thanks
hope
a
it
lot.
does well for you. And thank you very much indeed, Martin Freeman.
Thank you very much.